Madam started.
Okay. Good afternoon, dear all.
Hello.
Dear
Not,
view,
excuse me.
yes,
Not yet. 1 p.m.
not yet. Okay, how much? 1 minute?
4 minutes.
Jiten sir, recording is on, but
Yes, it started. But streaming will be at 1.
किसी कहीं से आवाज आ रहा है नहीं? We are feeling that as if we are going to appear the interview. जितेन सर और कितने मिनट बाकी है? क्या?
Hina madam, please begin.
Good afternoon. Dear viewers, it is my privilege and pleasure to welcome you to the 7th webinar titled Threshold Concepts for Case Interpretation as Prelude to Repertorization and Homeopathy by the Homeopathic Faculty of Parul University, along with my other colleagues, Dr. Purav Desai, Principal of Jawaharlal Nehru Homeopathic Medical College and Dean of Homeopathic Faculty of Parul University, Dr. B.P. Panda Sir, Principal of Parul Institute of Homeopathy, Faculty and Research, Dr. Hitat Mehta, Principal of Rajkot Homeopathic Medical College, and myself, Dr. Hina Raval, Principal of Ahmedabad Homeopathic Medical College. We at our university have made up of mind that the adverse circumstances of COVID-19 will make us better and not bitter. Hence have adopted to the e-learning mode of conducting regular online classes and the series of webinars, wherein our students and other learners of homeopathy get the opportunity to taste the nectar of knowledge of the eminent teachers of our fraternity. Today we have with us two such teachers of teachers. To begin with, Dr. Munir Ahmed Sir. Sir has done his post-graduation in the subject of repertory and has successfully completed many more certified courses from United Kingdom, Symbiosis, Sikkim Manipal University. Sir has received statement of accomplishment and achievements from various universities of California, New South Wales, Johns Hopkins, Michigan, Australia, London, Italy, and Bangalore. Presently, Sir is adorning many caps at the same time. Dr. Munir Ahmed Sir is serving as professor at Government Homeopathic Medical College, Bangalore. He is director Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, chairman of Board of Studies, chief trainer, faculty adjunct professor at Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. Sir has many publications to his name and international and national journals and has authored 8 books which are extremely useful for the students of UG and PG both. Sir, proudly I present you to the fraternity of homeopathy. Welcome, sir. Dr. Munir Ahmed, sir.
Yeah, thank you, madam. And I thank all the viewers of this webinar. At the beginning outset, let me thank the Parul University, all the homeopathic faculty for having given this opportunity. May I start my presentation now? And I bring greetings from Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, which is celebrating its silver jubilee year this year. In fact, our silver jubilee celebrations were inaugurated by the Honorable Prime Minister on the 1st of this month. When we think of repertorization, there is one thing which is very concerning for all of us. The word is analysis. Whenever we talk of repertory, analysis is something which is very, very central for repertorization. But when we talk of analysis, very often, as I have seen with many of the students, we fall into the trap of thinking that analysis is about the symptom to understand whether the symptom is general, particular, mental, any of these things. But what is missed is analysis basically has to start with the case itself. And what I am going to do today is to make a presentation on how to understand the importance of analyzing the case as against being very selective about only the symptoms. So how does a case analysis help us in understanding the prescriptions and through the repertorization? Therefore, the topic is threshold concepts for case analysis as prelude to repertorization. When I say threshold concepts, we can classify concepts at 3 different levels. One is the core concepts, the concepts which we all know and which we all use, and threshold concepts which are something which are new, and these help us to gain foothold for understanding something new. A threshold concept could be like when Einstein felt something like a new thing and he brought about a new thing, or when Newton felt the apple falling to the ground and he thought of gravity. So that is something which is a threshold concept, something which sets our thinking and which we can develop further into a new concept. So whatever I am presenting now is something which is already present in our literature, but I am trying to collate all these into a single platform and a single flow of thought so that it becomes easier for the students and teachers who are practicing with repertory to get a complete view of how to go about with repertorization. The purpose of this presentation is to recognize the need for reinventing our clinical decision-making potential by using the advanced knowledge tools. Now, what are these advanced knowledge tools and how do we collate them into homeopathic practice is what is the crux of this presentation. By the end of this session, you will be in a position to understand what are the epistemological factors that influence professional decisions as a homeopathic professional. And at the end of this session, you will be in a position to classify the case as per Hahnemann's nosologic taxonomy. Basically, this means Hahnemann's classification of diseases. Second is you will be in a position to understand what is the philosophical orientation in the given case that you are going to deal with. Third, you will be in a position to prognosticate or predict what could be the possibility of case in this according to the postulates of Dakes. And the final one is to identify the monitoring process of the disease progress on Isaiah's framework. Some of these are perhaps familiar to you. Some of these could be somewhat distantly familiar to you. But my presentation intends to bring about some kind of a closer familiarity for you in these 4 concepts. Whenever we are in a situation, we are in a comfort zone, like whatever I'm doing now is something which is very comfortable for me, but I am not always happy to be continuing the same comfort zone. I want to shift to a new zone, which is called as an enlightened zone. That is where I can perform better and perform more. And the journey to enlightened zone from comfort zone is something which is very uncertain and uneven. And this can only be supported by very focused learning and enlightened learning. How does this learning happen is what is the platform of today's presentation. So when we make a clinical decision, our clinical decisions are made basically on 4 ways of understanding our practices. One is something which is very heuristic. Heuristic is a rule of thumb. I know something would work. It is something like a doctrine of signature. I know that something is similar to something, and I have already seen a case which somebody has presented, which somebody has spoken of. I try to correlate my understanding in a rule of thumb manner. So it may work, it may not work, but very often it is something like taking a chance. The second level is called as patterns. We identify some patterns. For example, when I study medicine, a materia medica medicine, I study a medicine with its some kind of keynotes. So we have understood some keynotes about the medicine. When we see similar keynotes in the patients, in the case that we have taken, we try to correlate and see that there is a pattern between the case and the materia medica. Basing on these patterns, we tend to take a decision. The third is something like creating a probability. Creating a probability is also something which is a little higher than creating only a pattern. In a probability, we see that what is the mathematical probability of having this particular medicine working on this. So it is something like you see that there is a probability of general symptoms and there are particular symptoms, and we try to match on the basis of probability. Most of the time when we make a materia medica based prescription, that materia medica based prescription would be based on the probabilities. The next level of decision making is something which is scientific, which creates a kind of hypothesis. We say that when we take the case, we say, okay, this could be the problem which is there in the case, and how do I go about treating the case? I have a hypothesis. For that hypothesis, there is a model, and on the basis of the model, I work out to check whether my hypothesis is proved right or wrong. This is something which we all know in the research methodology, that we make a hypothesis, and on the basis of that, we work out further. This is how the repertorization also works. Repertorization works more on a scientific principle of creating a hypothesis and then further going into the prescription. Now, how does this hypothesis get worked on us? How do we plan this hypothesis? Is a presentation that is a core of whatever I'm going to present today. So before we go further, one thing is when we make diagnosis, a study was conducted by Semigran and others in 2016. What they tried to find out was how much is the success of a doctor making a diagnosis as against apps making the diagnosis. So nowadays, mobile apps are even the websites and the websites are also, medical websites are also used for making diagnosis, very often self-diagnosis by the patients. So how effective is this app as against the doctor making the presentation? This was the study. The gist of the study was when the doctor makes the diagnosis, 72% of the time it was correct, whereas the apps, when they make the diagnosis, it was something like 34%. You could see that almost half was the possibility of an app making a proper diagnosis. And mind you, these apps were taken from very credible sources like WebMD, iTriage, ShareCare's AskMD or Mayo Clinic. So in spite of all these things, the doctor making a presentation was much more effective and much more successful. The reason is when there is a human reasoning, there is a kind of plan. And this is a plan which creates success. When we are using an app, most of the time we are not giving much consideration for making a planning. It is something like perhaps selecting a bunch of symptoms and feeding them into the app and getting the diagnosis, which is a very wrong way of using any technology. So on the other hand, if the doctor is using that app with the kind of planning, perhaps the result would go even up to 100%. So basing this planning requirement, what I have done is, when we do the case analysis, when we do analyze the case, when we have taken the case, the next step, of course, is to analyze the case. In the case analysis, there are 4 steps, or not exactly 4 steps, 4 dimensions to analyzing the case. Now, how do these 4 dimensions of analyzing the case help the proper planning so that the repertorization becomes much more effective? The reason what we have also seen is, when we generally repertorize without much of a planning, we tend to we tend to get some polycrest medicine at the end of repertorization, and most of the time there's a kind of complaint that any repertorization brings about only the polycrest remedies, and which may or which may not act, and we never tend to get something which is a kind of a specific remedy or a rare remedy out of repertorization. The reason is it is the platform of, or it's the logic of computers, that it is called garbage in and garbage out. Whatever we feed in, the same thing is processed. Similarly, repertory also works on the same principles of computing, called garbage in, garbage out. So whatever we are trying to feed in, the kind of input, the quality of input has to improve. Only then the quality of output would improve. Now, how do we improve the quality of input? Is by using these 4 dimensions or 4 tools of decision making. The first of this is, before we understand that, there is something like there are different concepts which resemble, when we talk of these concepts which are threshold concepts. Threshold is something like we pass through that, and when we pass through something, it creates a kind of opening for us. It is like passing through a window or passing through a door. Similarly, when we create some new concepts which are called as threshold concepts, these give us a view which was not available earlier. And this is what Meyer and Land explained as a kind of understanding new knowledge, who said that there are certain concepts or certain learning experiences which resemble passing through a portal or a gate or an opening, from which a new perspective opens up, allowing things formerly which were not perceived to come into the view. And this is what exactly I'm trying to present here, to open up new ways of understanding case analysis. So one is Hahnemann's classification of diseases, which is already known for us. When we do the case analysis, the first thing that we have to do is to analyze the case in the background of Hahnemann's classification of diseases. When you analyze the disease, you can see very basically the outline would be that diseases are classified as dynamic or surgical, and further the dynamic diseases are classified as indisposition, acute or chronic, and further the acutes are classified further as acute disease per se, or acute exacerbation of a chronic state, or an acute phase of an episodic disease. And chronic diseases could be classified as complete or incomplete, and the complete could be something which is continuous, which are further classified as miasm dependent or miasm free, or it could be intermittent, which could be febrile or non-febrile, and intermittent could be further, incomplete could be further classified as only having mental symptoms or only physical symptoms. So when we do the classification of diseases according to Hahnemann's classification, what we get is, when the acute state is there, the acute condition could be which is acute per se, like it is basically an acute disease which is having a presentation, which is having a development, and which is having a decline phase, or it could be something like a chronic existing state which is getting exacerbated or which is getting aggravated. Or there's also a possibility that when we have an intermittent disease, the intermittent disease active phase could also be seen as acute phase. So therefore, when you do the case analysis, you have to pinpoint whether it is an acute per se disease, whether it is an aggravation of chronic state, or it is an active phase in the intermittent disease. This is the first level. And when you get into the chronic state, what we have to understand is whether this is an active phase in the chronic disease that we are seeing, or whether it is a dormant phase in the chronic disease, which we are not able to see, but which the patient would sometimes present as something that I was having these symptoms. No, at present, I don't have this symptom. Or it could even be seen as a constitutional state, which may not be a disease state, but that is how the constitutional state of the patient is. So these are the 2 ways that we can classify the acute phase or the chronic phase, so that it becomes clearer for you how you can proceed with the further analysis in the case. So the first level in the case analysis is on the basis of Hahnemann's classification to identify where does the case fit into in Hahnemann's classification of diseases. Once that is done, next is to identify which is the dominant school of philosophy which is operating in the case. Like when you look at the case, the symptoms of the case or the nature of the case, these give a presentation whether it is something which is having a kind of Bonninghausen's school of philosophy, or whether it is Kent's philosophy, or whether it is Boger's philosophy, or a kind of clinical understanding in the case. So either of the four would be present in the case. The reason is when you identify which is the school of philosophy, it becomes easier to identify which would be the appropriate repertoire to deal with that. So when you look at Bonninghausen's philosophy, two things are very prominent in that. One is called as the doctrine of analogy, the other is the doctrine of concomitance, which is very clear for you and which you all are quite familiar with. But what is interesting to observe here is Bonninghausen's philosophy fits into something called as Gestalt school of psychology. In fact, Gestalt is also something which is emerging from German state around the same time that Bonninghausen was operating when he was alive. So perhaps there was some kind of an influence which Bonninghausen might have imbibed from the Gestalt school of philosophy also. What Gestalt school of philosophy says is that there is some kind of similarity, or there is some kind of proximity, there is some kind of completeness which happens. There are many rules in the Gestalt school of psychology which are very, very similar to the homeopathic philosophy. In fact, some aspects of homeopathic philosophy and homeopathic understanding can also be explained by using Gestalt psychology. The other possibility is that the case might have the symptoms according to what Kent would prefer to classify, like mental symptoms or physical generals or local symptoms. So if you see more of mental symptoms or physical generals which are present, perhaps the school of philosophy which is operating there could be Kent's school of philosophy. What we also have to be aware here is not to be totally overawed by whatever Kent has written, because Kent's influence comes not only from the homeopathic principles or homeopathic background of Hahnemann, but also from the influence of eclectic school, where Professor Scudder was his teacher, and a lot of Kent's writings are influenced by John Scudder. And both of these gentlemen are also further influenced by Swedenborg. And when you look at the classification of mental symptoms that we see for repertorization, will, emotion, intellect, in fact, this will, emotion, intellect is something which comes from Swedenborgian thought. I have done kind of extensive literary search on the net to try to understand from where this will, emotion, intellect comes. The source always goes back to Swedenborg and to the biblical talks rather than to any psychological understanding. In fact, nowhere in psychology you will find the classification of mind symptoms as will, emotion, and intellect. Perhaps this is one area that we need to have a rethink about to make it more professional for homeopathic applications. The next school of philosophy could be Boger's school of philosophy, which Boger classifies into three planes: one constitutional plane, one diagnostic plane, one pathological plane. So when these planes are apparent in the case that we have taken, it perhaps would go into the level of Boger's school of philosophy. And finally, the clinical school of philosophy, when we see more of clinical and diagnostic symptoms, there also you can classify the symptoms as basic symptoms, which are very common symptoms, or diagnostic symptoms which are appropriate for the diagnosis of case, or dispositional symptoms which are more generic in nature. So these are the four ways in which the school of philosophy can identify it in any given case. So the first level of classification or analyzing the case is fitting it into the Hahnemann's classification of diseases. The second dimension is to identify which is the dominant school of philosophy which is operating in the case. And the third would be to identify what could be the prognostic possibility in the case. That is, whether this case is amenable for homeopathic treatment or it is not amenable. Now, how do we say before starting to treat whether it is curable or not? For that, there are some 5 postulates which Dake had presented, and which Stuart Close has very clearly explained in the scope of philosophy, scope of homeopathy in his book. And these 5 postulates, which are quite extensive, and these can give an indication of the case which you are going to treat could be perhaps treatable by homeopathy or not. There are indicators in that, in all these 5 postulates. So the third dimension is to identify whether the case is treatable or not, whether it is to be accepted for homeopathic treatment or not. And the fourth dimension is interesting. I have taken this as a kind of monitoring for the success of the disease. How does the disease progress? So the gentleman whom you are seeing is an Argentine urologist called Francisco Aizaga. He has explained about the different planes of the progress of disease. What he says is, from the birth, the person acquires a disposition, or a person is born with a disposition. That is what it is, something which is innate in the person. And as a person progresses, when the person starts living in the context of an environment, the environmental factors and the innate disposition, the interplay of these two bring about some kind of a constitution in the person. So constitution is something which a person develops over a period of time in relation to, or in the context of interplay with the environment. But later on, whatever happens is something which is a disease. Till disposition and constitution, Aizaga doesn't prefer to call it a kind of disease. It is a state of a person. Constitution is a state of person, disposition is a state of person. Then whatever happens is a lesion, and the lesion Aizaga classifies are the progress from the functional conditions to the structural changes to the degenerative changes. This is how, and finally whatever you see at the bottom would be the death or the end of a person. This is the flow or the progress of a disease that a person would have. Now, if we can plot it as a kind of concentric circles to see how a disease progress can be mapped, you can see at the core of the circle is the disposition of the person. And as a person starts interacting with the environment, the person develops a constitution. Until constitution, it need not be a disease. It is something which a person could harbor with. Next, as the constitution continues further, or as a person's interaction with the environment continues further, there could be some kind of nosologic factors which come in, some disease-causing factors which get into the play, and the person becomes predisposed to acquire some disease. And this disease will start with the functional state, then the structural state, and then the degenerative phase. So when we have taken the case, we can position the case in any of these 5 layers. For example, if I have taken the case and I feel that the case is in the structural realm, in the structural circle, what is best possible is to make it something like a functional, or even shift it to the level of maybe constitution. And when we see a disease in the phase, when we have taken the case and the disease is seen in the phase of degenerative phase, the best possible recourse could be perhaps to arrest it there and make it stop at the level of structural. Perhaps we cannot go back to the functional phase. So this concentric circle can give us a lot of indicators as how to make a decision about the case. The other thing also that I have experience with this is when the selection of a potency. Perhaps if you look at the state or the disease which is there at the dispositional level, perhaps the very highest potency would be appropriate. And when we look at the disease being present at the degenerative phase, perhaps a very low potency or even mother tincture would be appropriate. And one more thing that I also have seen is when we look at the dispositional state, no sorts perhaps would be the more relevant kind of medicine that could be prescribed. And when we go for towards the degenerative phase, perhaps you have to look at something which is having a degenerative nature, could be something like a metal, because it is something where the depth of the action would be more appropriate. So a lot of decisions also can be taken on the basis of this Aizaga concentric circles. In fact, whatever Aizaga had prepared, I have tried to modify it to make it more simple. These are the 4 core principles. I would say these are the 4 threshold principles which we can identify, the students can identify, the practitioners can identify to shift our understanding of the analysis of the case. Now, beyond the analysis of the case, you will have the symptom analysis. So these are the 4 principles that I presented. And to conclude here, at the end of the session, if you are able to classify or understand that we need to classify the case as per the Hahnemann's nosologic taxonomy, and identify the philosophical orientation of the case from the 4 philosophical schools, prognosticate the case, that is predict what could be the possibility of homeopathic treatment on the case using Lake's postulates, and monitor the disease progress on Aizaga's framework. If there is a kind of understanding about these 4 principles, I think this presentation was a little more successful. We need to have a more in-depth understanding of this. I have only made a kind of orientation to these 4 principles. To learn this, we need to have more in-depth. And these are the resources that I have used for presenting this. These were my references. Now, if there are any questions, I can take them, or if the organizers feel the questions can be taken later, I would be thankful to you. And thank you all for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we'll be taking the questions at the end of the session. So if there are any questions, the viewers may just type the questions, and at the end of the session, we'll be taking the questions. Thank you, sir, for the wonderful way in which you have explained that how we can use the repertory and make the totality of symptoms before going to the repertory. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. Now for the second speaker of the day. Today we have with us Professor Dr. Tajwar Khan, sir. He is a clinician since last 34 years. Sir has done his post-graduation in homeopathy, and sir was the principal of RKD Homeopathic Medical College at Bhopal. Sir at right is holding a prestigious position of mentor and guide at the Honiban Homeopathic College at UK, London. At present, he is the chairperson at Kushwabao Thakre Nursing College, Bhopal. So it's a pleasure to have you, sir, today. Welcome, sir. Dr. Khan, sir.
Welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Purav Desai, sir. Thank you, Dr. Panda. Thank you, Dr. Hitendra, sir. And Hina Principal, Dr. Ahmedabad Medical College Principal, Dr. Hina Rawal, madam. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Today, I will speak about the journey of homeopath. I'm starting my presentation. Have it started?
No, sir.
Started?
No,
You
no.
can see it?
No, sir.
Just wait. Aram?
Tajwar Khan sir, please unmute your speaker.
Sir, you have to share your screen for presenting, and you have to unmute your mic.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, now we can see your screen. Yes, sir.
Still your mic is on mute mode, sir.
Sir, you make your mic unmute. Yes. Thank you, sir.
Is it okay?
It's done.
Can
Okay,
you see?
okay.
Yes,
Can
yes,
you see
sir.
presentation? Okay, my presentation name is Journey as a Homeopath. So actually, we see thousands of patients, thousands of homeopaths coming every year all over India, but we see very few homeopaths are successful, and majority of them are not practicing either homeopathy, or they are not delivering good results in homeopathic colleges or in homeopathic clinic. So what is the reason for the for unsuccessful homeopaths? So I have studied about it, and finally I found that the most of the homeopaths who are successful, they are having different story, and most of the homeopaths who are not too much successful, they are having different story. So what is the story behind that? The main story which I came to know about that, they are specific plans. Actually, what happened when we get admission in the BHMS Homeopathic Medical College, we don't have a specific plan. Like a journey, if we are journeying, if we are going to America, if we are going to Delhi, we are having specific plans. So until unless we decide our goals, until unless we decide our plans, until unless we decide our journey, we cannot reach anywhere. So what happened? Let's take an example of a journey from Baroda or Bhopal to Delhi. We have to book the train, and in the train we know it by which train we are going, at what time the train will go, what is the name of the train, what is the coach of the train, what is our seat in the coach, and everything we know it. Okay, at what time we are going to start. So we reach to our destination because we are having fixed plan. But in homeopathy, as far as homeopathy is concerned, homeopaths, they get admission in first year, second year, third year, fourth year, final year, and they don't know where to go, and they have not studied properly, they have not planned properly. That is the main reason for the unsuccessful homeopathic practitioners. For my advice for the homeopathic successful practitioners, they should have a specific plan right from the second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year. They should have a very specific reasons for studying, and they should having specific goals for the successful homeopathic practitioners. Actually, if we are planning everything in a proper way to keep our everything, if we are planning to reach the destination, we can work hard for that. So for that, we should have two types of plan. One is the short time. We should have short time plan, and we should have a long time plan. For the short time plan, we should have a vision from our mind. Actually, visions are of two types. One is what you see from the eyes, and another is what you see from your mind. So seeing from mind side is more important than the eyesight. So what I tell you and what I tell every homeopath, they should fix their goals, and they should have a specific plan to be a successful homeopath. For a successful homeopath, you should have a long-term goals and short-term goals. And the goals should be started right from when they are in second year, or they are in third year, or they are in internship, or they are doing PG courses. So whatever your mind, whatever you will ask your mind will reply you. Let us take an example of Seven Wonders. See the Statue of Liberty, see the Paris Tower, see the Statue of Unity, what it was. First, it was a simple plain thought of somebody. Then he has planned for something, then he reached to the final destination. So you are the architect of yourself. When you plan properly, you want to become a homeopath, only then you can reach to that plan. Until or unless you will plan properly to become a successful homeopath, you can't go anywhere. If you go to the station and you ask on the window, give me a ticket, the ticket vendor will ask you where you want to go. You don't know where I want to go. Then what will happen? You will go nowhere. Until unless you will decide your journey, you will decide your destination, you will decide your goals, you cannot reach anywhere. So this is the very important thing. When you are in second year, third year, fourth year, you should plan your goals, and you should plan you will become a successful homeopath. So I have got a few more slides. This is what about the introduction about your journey, how you plan. So my request to everybody, you should decide your destination, what you will get it. So for this, you have short-term goals and long-term goals. In short-term goals, this is the short-term goals. So in Materia Medica, these are the 51 remedies, which are deep-acting, chronic, polycrus remedies. These are multi-miasmatic remedies. They are having capability and to cure everything, right from head to foot. They can cure it. If you will study these 51 remedies and you will make a plan, you can become a successful homeopath. For example, if you are having 10-week plan, I'll prepare a plan for the 10-week plans and 51 remedies, and every day you study 5 remedies. Every week you study 5 remedies, Monday to Friday, and every day 1 remedy for 5 days. Then Saturday, Sunday is a free day for you. You do whatever you want to do. If you will fix your goals, I am very much hopeful. I am very much hopeful that you will succeed. Another thing is that you have to plan 5 remedies in a week, and you Saturday and Sunday you make a plan to punish yourself and reward yourself. If you are able to complete your task with discipline and dedication, then you give award to yourself. And if you are not able to finish your plan, then you can punish yourself. Like if you like a tea, you cannot, you decided, okay, I have not finished my plan, I will not take tea. Okay, I have not finished my plan, I will not go to the market. I have not finished my plan, I will not go to the any public place or malls or like that. Until unless you will punish yourself, and until unless you will reward yourself, you will not complete your task. Your task should be completed with your good habit and discipline and commitment. You have to make your commitment to yourself. Until or unless you will commit yourself, you have to study every day one remedy, and how to study this remedy from the different materia medicas. So I hope you have noted down these polycrest remedies. These remedies are very, very important remedies. You will find in almost all rubrics. All the major rubrics are containing few of these remedies. One remedy in some rubric you will find lycopodium. In some rubric you will find graphitis. In some rubric you will find arsenic. In some rubric you will find pulsatilla. In some rubric you will find sepia. So these remedies are the major remedies, major constitutional remedies. And if you study these remedies with a plan, you can become a successful homeopath. This is my guarantee. And only 10 weeks studies are enough to understand these remedies. And I will advise you 4 materia medicas in short-term plan. Though in long-term plan you have to study all the rubrics, all the remedies. Every remedy is very important, and other materia medicas are very important. But in the short-term plan for your success, if you study these 51 remedies with 4-5 materia medicas, and every day one remedy, Monday to Friday one remedy, and Saturday, Sunday, you decide yourself what you have got and what you have lost. If you have completed this plan, then reward yourself. If you have not completed this plan, then you punish yourself. Okay, today I will not take tea, today I will not go to the market. This is what my punishment. Unless you do it with complete dedication, discipline and commitment, you cannot success. So success does not come from the tree. It is you. If you have a specific plan, if you have a very plan of the journey and a specific goal, so the small goals will help you. You are the architect of yourself. An architect goes to the plot, they see an open land and they visualize it. They visualize a big building, but at that time they are simply a plan. They are simply a plot, but they visualize a big building. But after a few years, they work hard on that, and they can see a big building on that. You can imagine any building which you have seen, a beautiful building when you have seen in your lifetime. You can imagine it. You can see it from the mind side. One day, a few years back, it was a simple plot, but now it has become a huge building. How it happened? Someone has looked at that. Someone has looked at plot from the mind side. So what is the important? Ask your mind. Whatever you will ask to your mind, the mind will reply to that only. If you ask your mind, you want to go to the Baroda, it will give you the route of Baroda. If you want to go to the Delhi, it will give you the route of Delhi. If you want to go to the New York, it will give you the road to the New York. Whatever you will ask to your mind, mind will reply you. Mind is very intelligent. Mind knows what you want to do. So first thing is very important for the successful practitioners is to decide your goal, a specific goal, what you want to achieve in your life. If you want to achieve in your life all the good things, you can make a plan. And if those homeopathic doctors, they are very, very successful. If I have studied and I came to know those doctors who have studied, who has journeyed their plan according to their action plan, they enjoy their life. As far as hard working is concerned, you do hard work and enjoy it. You must have seen it many times. A football player, they finish their match, they are tired, they can't breathe, they are just gasping, but they said we enjoyed them very much. like in a dance party. You see it in a dance party of your friend's marriage or your cousin's marriage. You dance a lot and you become tired, but after the tiredness you enjoy it. So what is my submission to what I am telling to all of you, that work hard and enjoy your work. Until unless you will enjoy your work, unless you will work hard, you can't succeed. This is very important for your success. Make a plan, have a specific goal, only then you can do it. और जिंदगी में आप जीतने की आदत डालिए. अगर आप जिंदगी की जंग में रोज रोज जीतते रहेंगे तो आपको पता नहीं चलेगा कि जिंदगी की जंग आप कब जीत गए. So this is very important. You don't know if you have studied Lachesis today, what will pay you back? Lachesis, Aconite, Magnesia carb, Sorinum, Pulsatilla, Sepia, Silicia, Letronure, Ipecac, or Calcarea carb, all medicines are like a ATM cards for you. You study today and you don't know. After the repertorization, you have to choose one medicine out of these polycrust, and you decide Lachesis on the basis of night aggravation. You decided Lachesis on the basis of constriction in the throat. You decide Lachesis on the basis of great leucocity. Okay, you decide, you come to the okay, this patient needs Lachesis only. So when you have studied this, you are charging 500 rupees for that 3 symptoms only. So if these Lachesis will work for a lifetime, and it will work like an ATM card. So the ATM card, this is the time to load your money in ATM card, and your study is your knowledge is the only these money. This is the currency. So if you study these 51 remedies with very hard work, I am very much sure you can be a successful homeopath. But how to study these 51 remedies? Though you have to study all the remedies, but these are the main common polycrust remedies, main constitutional remedies. If you know only these things as a short-term plan, you can do that. So these are the 4 characteristic, 4 main materia medicas. In a short-term plan, you have to study these 51 remedies from these materia medicas. These materia medicas, that is main, is the keynotes and characteristic and comparison of some leading remedies of materia medica by Dr. H.C. Allen. This is the most important materia medica which I found, because all characteristics is given in this materia medica. If you want to differentiate one medicine to another medicine, if you know this only this materia medica, this is more than enough. If you need to differentiate, fine differentiation between two remedies, then you can have an opinion of Dr. William Borwick's materia medica, and lectures on homeopathic materia medica by J.T. Kent, and Essence of Homeopathic Materia Medica by George Vithorkos, especially indicated for the mental cases, and Study of Homeopathic Materia Medica by Dr. N.M. Chaudhary, and Concise Materia Medica of Homeopathic Remedies by S.R. Pathak. These are the 4 materia medicas. If you will study these 51 remedies from these 4 materia medicas for a 10-week plan, I am not giving you a long-term plan. I am giving you a short-term plan to become a successful homeopath. The basic problem is that when you study, you don't know what to study, how to study, your intention, and your total objective is on the passing examinations. Passing examination is a different, passing a degree or become a graduate and postgraduate, it is a different story. All the students who are, all the doctors, all the homeopaths, they don't get similar results. Few are successful, few are unsuccessful. Those who study those who travel their journey with the specific plan, they get successful. And those who do not study as per a specific plan, it is difficult for them to become as successful. So these are the 2 things which are very, very important. Make a habit, study very hard, and बहुत मेहनत करने की जरूरत है. What I will tell you कि मजा एंड सजा. If you आपको मजा है तो मजा टेम्परेरी है और सजा परमानेंट है. This is the time for you to study hard. if you will take this time, if you will spend this time in a fun and in a moj and masti, then saza is definitely is coming in your future, and maza will be temporary and saza will be permanent. And if you will do hard work, mehnat karenge, so mehnat is temporary. After some time, when you will study materia medica, when you will understand lachesis, when you will understand sepia, when you will understand calcarea cup, when you will understand netramure and sepia. So मेहनत तो but short time रहेगी, फिर मजा उसका सारी जिंदगी रहेगा. So then now you have to decide if you will go behind the maza or you will run behind the success or saza. So this is the time for you, for the students, for the young budding homeopaths. They should decide their specific goal and they should plan their journey. And until or unless they will fix their goals, they can't reach anywhere. आप स्टेशन पे जाके टिकट मांगेंगे मुझे कहाँ जाना है, वो कहेंगे कहीं नहीं, कहीं का भी टिकट दे दो तो आप कहीं नहीं पहुँच पाएंगे. Any envelope without address does not reach any destination. कोई भी लिफाफा हो जिस पे पता नहीं लिखा हो तो वो लिफाफा दोस्तों कहीं नहीं जा सकता. You need to write the address. What is your address? Your address is your success. And how success will come? Success will come from your knowledge. And how knowledge will come? It will come from hard work, and it will come from the hard work, and it will come from the knowledge, materia medica, from the books. All success leads, कोई भी success हो वो किताबों से होकर ही गुजरती है. So this is very important. अगर आप अपना प्लान बनाते हैं और कुल बहुत छोटा सा short term plan है, it's only 10 weeks plan, and in 1 week you study only work only 5 days and enjoy 2 days, read every medicine 1 day, and from these 4 books, that is more than sufficient to complete your short term work. Then this is the repertory. Repertory is having 37, 38 sections. In other, we are having hundreds of repertories. But I follow the Kent repertory. Kent repertory is a mother of all repertories. I will advise to first go to the original work rather than other work. So in Kent repertory, you need not to study all the rubrics. We get more patients from the mind section, more patients from the head, more patients from the upper respiratory tract, nose, throat, cough, expectoration, chest, GIT, stomach, abdomen, and rectum, urogenitals, kidney, prostate, male and female, extremities, skin symptoms, fever, patients, and generalities. So I advise everybody to study repertory, especially only Kent repertory first in short term. So in the Kent repertory, 9 sections. If you study 9 sections, we get maximum patients from these 9 sections. If you study these rubrics, you can do wonder. You can become a very successful homeopath. Another thing which I will advise you: study of materia medica and repertory together. Materia medica is the final court of appeal. Until if you are studying only materia medica, your success is doubtful. If you study only repertory, your success is doubtful. So if you will study both simultaneously, everyday plan you have 3 hours. 3 hours study, 2 hours materia medica, 1 hour is repertory is enough. We get maximum cure in these things. Maximum number of patients belongs to the allergy, belongs to the nose, throat, cough, expectoration. And it is a very simple thing. When you study repertory, meanwhile, you will come to know the main rubrics, sub-rubrics, sub-sub-rubrics. If you study nose section, I'll tell you what are the rubrics to be studied in the nose sections. So if you open repertory, so study only these rubrics in a short-term plan, like catarrh, like coldness, coryza, cracks, discharge, dryness, epistaxis, inflammation, pain, polyp, roughness, shiny, smell, sneezing, swelling, and tingling. Only these 14, 15 rubrics you have to study. Now, you need not to study the whole nose repertory. You will read only these rubrics in the repertory. Open repertory every day and read coryza. Open repertory every day and read obstruction of the nose and sneezing. So if you read coryza rubric by rubric, So there is given coryza from right side, coryza from left side, coryza in the morning, coryza on waking, coryza in summer, coryza in bed, and everything is given. So when you will study rubrics and sub-rubrics and sub-sub-rubrics, by the study of rubric, sub-rubric and sub-sub-rubric, you will your case taking will improve. You will come to know, oh my God, it is given in that. If a patient comes to you with the epistaxis, and if you ask कि epistaxis आपको हुआ है कि हर गर्मी में होता है, every hot weather it, so you will find in repertory only single remedy is given, crocus cocti. So by the help of repertory, by the help of studying rubric and sub-rubric, you can understand the how to what to ask to the patient. So you can understand everything, what is relevant in the medicine and what is relevant in the rubrics. So if you study 51 remedies and if you study these rubrics and mainly these sub-rubrics, then you will come to the throat. These are the things you have to ask in the throat: choking, constriction, coldness, craveling, discoloration, dry, elongated uvula, foreign body sensation, itching, lump in sensation, membrane, mucus, obstruction, pain, pulsation, roughness, swallow, edematous, and ulcers. These are the only few things. So in the Kant repertory, though repertory is containing around 1400 pages, but you need not to go through all pages in a short-term plan. You have to study only few sections like these, like 9 sections. You have to study only 9 sections initially, and in 9 sections you have to study few rubrics from every sections, which are day to day, which are coming day to day. So meanwhile you will complete your case taking also. So materia medica in one hand, repertory in second hand, and you can get case taking also. And while you are opening repertory, it is very important to consider weather, like a wet weather, warm weather, windy weather. We have got rubrics. We have got rubrics in that every weather. So before coming to the wet weather, if you study wet weather in the rubric, you just go and open the index of Kant Materia Medica. You will find around 85 rubrics are given in the wet weather, around 86 rubrics are given of the damp weather, and in the winter you will get around 38 rubrics, and like a general weather you will get around 236 remedies. So before coming to every weather, you just open your Kant repertory and just go to the index and find out where winter is given, and go back to your main repertory and see okay, what are the rubrics of winter is given, what are the rubrics of summer is given in nose section, what are the rubrics are summer is given in head section, what are the rubrics of summer is given in GIT section, what are the rubrics are given of summer in a kidney section, what are the rubrics are given in fever in autumn section. If you see the autumn in fever, you will get the main remedies, and these remedies you study from the Materia Medica. So before coming to any weather, you have got enough time. You go and open your repertory, find out the weather, and see how many symptoms, how many rubrics are in different section given. Study the rubrics, and you will study these rubrics, weather rubrics in mind, weather rubrics in head, weather rubrics in nose, throat, and all. So if you are having a specific plan, a short-term plan of 10-week plan, you can do wonders and you can be a successful homeopath. This is what I want to say, and what you reap is what you sow. This is the time. If you study very hard, then you will saw these big bungalows. You can have all cars. You can have everything. What you have not got in your life, your kids can get these things in your life. If you are not coming to your college by Mercedes-Benz, one time it may possible your son will go to the college with the Mercedes-Benz. If you do not have a very good house, your son can get a very good house. But how? But it will be done only if you work hard, and this is the time to work hard, and this is a time for the mehnat. ठीक है? Maza is temporary, and मेहनत is permanent. अगर मजा टेम्परेरी लेंगे तो सजा आपको परमानेंट मिलेगी, और मजा अगर आप लेंगे कुछ टाइम के लिए तो मेहनत अगर आप कुछ टाइम करेंगे तो सजा जो सजा है आपको नहीं मिलेगी, और उसका फल सारे जीवन मिलेगा. तो मेहनत इज टेम्परेरी एंड जो आपको फल है वो हमेशा के लिए रहेगा, और अगर आप मजा करेंगे तो मजा टेम्परेरी है और सजा हमेशा रहेगी. थैंक यू वेरी मच सर. Thank you, dear students. May God help you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, for your blessings and your useful tips to the beginners in homeopathy as well as to the students of homeopathy. Now, I would request all the viewers who want to ask some questions to our experts today. Sir, there is one question which says that please share the list of hot and chilly remedies. Is it possible, or some of few of the hot and chilly remedies, sir, if you can mention? Dr. Khan,
No,
sir.
I will advise you to open Kent Materia Medica, and in the preface of the Kent Materia Medica, you will get a list of hot and cold remedies.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any more questions? Someone is typing, sir. Will just wait for a few seconds.
Okay, fine, sir, fine.
Yes, sir.
In Kent Repertory, it is given hot and cold remedies in the early phases before the repertory starts.
Sir, there is one question from Dr. Gaurav Bhatt. He asked that whether Gibson-Miller chart for remedies can be followed.
Sir, it should be followed, but not for the short-term goal. In a long-term goal, you have to study a lot, and remedy relationship you have to study personally. It is there are so many medicines which is given inimical as well as the followable as well as the antidote also. So, but they work and they don't. So you have to your personal experience is based on that.
Thank you, sir. So there is one question for Dr. Munir Ahmed, sir. Whether the book of alchemy in homeopathic methodology can be available in physical form?
Yeah, it is available with the publisher. Yeah, it is available with the publisher highlight from Bangalore. I'll share the details maybe on. I'll share it with the organizers.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I think there are no more questions. Thank you to the both experts, and for the vote of thanks as well as for the concluding remark. I would like to invite the principal of Rajkot Homeopathic Medical College, Dr. Hitat Mehta, sir. Please, sir.
Good afternoon to one and all present in this webinar. I will start with the concluding remarks of webinar. First eminent speaker, that is Dr. Munir Ahmed, sir. Sir has been started with the threshold concept, case interpretation as prelude to repatriation and homeopathy. In terms of repatriation, we should overcome our comfort zone. Then we are ready to face any situation. So, regards 4 steps of analysis, which is very important for every homeopath. First of all, starting with the Hahnemannian classification, mental symptom, physical general, local symptoms, then moving to the Boger plane, clinical school of symptoms, then basic and disposition, constitution, lesions, fundamental, structural, constitutional. So any disposition, there is need of higher potency and north source for that particular patient. For degenerative changes, which has been established, then there is need of lower potency. So very nice integrated approach of repertory with concept of organon. So thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful session. Thank you, sir. The second eminent speaker, Dr. Khan, sir, presented as a journey of homeopath. So being a students, each and every students have a aim to reach their destination, and we are homeopaths. So each homeopath must have goal to become successful homeopath. Sir has been nicely divided the goals, short-term goals and long-term goals. We are architect ourselves, and short-term goals, 51 remedy of Materia Medica, take action and enjoy each and every remedy. make plan and specific goals and achieve the target. So every homeopath need to introspect to bring our fraternity to next level. Every medicine of Materia Medica integrated with repatriation, short-term plan with the help of the different authors, Alan Skeenot, Boric Materia Medica, Jetty Kent, George Vithulkas, N.M. Chaudhary, and S.R. Fata. So short-term plan by using the books aggressively definitely boons our goals. Regarding the short-term plans, by using the Kant's repertory, rubrics, sub-rubrics, sub-rubrics, we have to study each section of the Kant's repertory separately. It will be definitely help us our integrated approach of repertory to using the Maja, which is temporary, Saja, which is permanent. So thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful sessions.
Thank you.
Lastly, we have concluded with the vote of thanks. On behalf of Faculty of Homeopathy, Parul University, I take this opportunity to propose vote of thanks to those who have directly and indirectly contributed to this webinar. At the outset, I thank our highly learned and eminent speaker and resource person of today's webinar, respected Professor Dr. Munir Ahmed sir, and respected Professor Dr. Khan sir, for sparing their valuable time and knowledge with us. Sir, we are really enlightened with your knowledge and presence. We are thankful to Honorable President Sir Dr. Devanshu Patel sir and respected Dr. Komal Patel madam, Director of Ayush Colleges of Parul University, for motivating and inspiring us to design new method of teaching and learning for students and faculty member amidst for COVID-19 crisis. A special thanks to organizing committee, Dr. Purav Desai sir, Dean Faculty of Homeopathy, Parul University, and Principal of Jawaharlal Nehru Homeopathic Medical College, Dr. Ina Rawal Madam, Principal of Ahmedabad Homeopathic Medical College, Dr. B.P. Panda sir, Principal of Parul Institute of Homeopathic and Research, for their unflinching support and coordination. Our heartfelt thanks all the learners and listeners for their active participation. I also want to extend gratitude to Mr. Brijesh sir and Mr. Jiten for providing technical support for the successful conduction of this webinar. With this warm words and a kind message, we move to the end of today's webinar. Thank you everyone. Stay connected. Thank you all.
Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar.
So let us
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Munir sir. Thank you, Khan sir. Thank you,
madam.
sir. It was wonderful listening to you. Thank you. We may now, we can leave the meeting now. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you,
Thank
Khan.
Thank you, sir.
Most welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Panda sir.
Thank you, sir.
अभी रैंडम चलता चालू करेंगे